Welcome to the next video in the Simple Bind tutorial series. In this demo, we will cover a more advanced example of binding the properties of multiple game objects into a single value by utilizing basic value-to-text binding as well as multi-binding with a multi-value converter. The final scene will show three sliders controlling the RGB components for the color of an image. The value for each component will also be displayed below each slider. To get started, let's create a new scene. And let's add a basic UI image component to that scene. Switch back to our game scene. And let's make sure that our image is centered in our canvas. Next, we need to create a basic slider. Back on our canvas, UI, slider. And on that slider, let's go ahead and add a UI text component. To start with, let's move this slider off to the side. And let's grab the text and let's move it down just below. Let's go ahead and rename this slider to be red, as it will control the red component for our image. The text field, let's go ahead and make its text red and center the text right underneath the slider. Now, the first thing we want to do is we want to bind the value of the slider to the text component, similar to the previous videos. So let's go ahead and add a binding behavior to the text component. Bind its source to red, which is our slider. Select the slider component, and then select the value of that. Now as we update the slider, the text value should change. Let's go ahead and verify that real quick. If we run our scene, and we move our slider, once again you'll notice the value updates just as we expect. Let's go ahead and duplicate the slider 2 more times. The second one we're gonna name as blue, and let's go ahead and move it down towards the bottom. And the third one we'll label as green and move it towards the middle. And just so we can tell them apart, let's take our text for our blue and let's go ahead and make it a blue color. Blue color. And let's take the text on the green and let's make it a green color. Perfect. Now once again, just to verify that everything's working properly, let's run the scene one more time. And as we move our slider, you'll notice that all three values update accordingly. The next thing we want to do is we want to bind these three values to control the color value of our image. Let's go ahead and select our image. Let's go ahead and add a component. We're going to add a binding behavior. And what we want to do is we want to bind all three of these values into a single value on the image. So our target is going to be image, the image component, and color. For the source, we have three sources that all need to be combined into a single value for the target. So let's go ahead and let's add 2 more sources by clicking on the plus sign next to the source. Let's drag red into the first one. Let's go ahead and grab green, drag it into the second one, and the blue is going to be our third one. Now the value for each of these is going to be the slider value component. Slider and value. We're just going to choose that for all three. So now we can see that we have 3 sources, red, green, and blue sliders, the value of each of those, and our target is a single image, the color field. Our destination or direction is source to target, but we need to add a converter. And when we click the convert dropdown, you'll notice at this time we have several multi-value converters. Because we have multiple sources, we're shown the multi-converters and not the single value converters. In this case, we want to choose the RGB to color converter. That will take the red, green, and blue values and convert them into a single color value. If we go ahead and we run this example, you'll notice that our cube is now black, which is the 000 RGB color. If I was to move the red slider, the red channel updates accordingly. If I was to move the green, same thing happens. And finally the blue. All three values are being bound through the multi-converter and combined into a single color value that updates our image color. Thank you for your interest in Simple Bind, and as always, there'll be more videos coming soon.